when like my training switched because I ended up doing a session with him and Keith. It was legs. And that was like that felt like the first day of training for me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode, and I gotta say it's exciting, of Sup Talk Radio. Weeks ago, I had Mr. Mike Van Rotes on the podcast, and tonight I am honored by having his girlfriend, up-and-coming figure competitor, Miss Chey Coombs. Chey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I
Exciting.
am as well, because, off air here, you and I feel like you and I speak in some kind of shape or form daily, just like Michael. And I feel you guys are like family already.
Yeah, it is cool the connections you can make. And I know Michael feels the same way. Just kind of, you guys really just quickly connected. And I know he's super grateful that you were kind of the first to bust him out into this whole like podcasting game. So
love it. Love it.
yeah.
Chey, let's quickly look at the task at hand. You're 16 or 17 weeks out from the Nationals.
Yes, I am.
Have you started prep yet?
Oh yeah. We that kind of starts a little earlier for me. I like to give myself a little bit of wiggle room, not wiggle room, so to speak, I guess, but just kind of really comfortability in the prep. So usually we start from like 22, 24 weeks out.
Okay.
But even before that, probably 8 weeks before that, we were kind of progressing towards prep. So kind of cleaning things up, changing the foods and stuff like that. Because I was a little strayed away from bodybuilding the beginning of the year, just kind of focusing on other life things and whatnot. And yeah, so we kind of needed to reel it in a little bit and tighten things up before we actually started a prep. So I've been like in it, I guess, for a little while now, but still feeling good.
So wait, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You were on Mike's podcast, Bass and Bodybuilding the other day, and it looked like you were eating Skittles or M&Ms or something.
Oh no! So I every now and again I'll get those Tic Tacs, like the what fruit adventure or whatever it is, the fruity Tic Tacs or whatever, and I'll have a few of those just to kind of trick myself into thinking I'm having like candy or like a little treat. So.
Okay, fair enough. Gotta hold your feet to the fire here.
Yeah, I thought you caught me, but you didn't.
So I'm assuming, is Mike your coach or not your coach, or?
He is officially my coach. Yes.
Okay, and walk us through here between you and I, and obviously the listeners, which don't pay attention. What's that like being coached by your boyfriend?
It is, I would say, both rewarding and challenging, obviously in its own rights, but it wasn't even necessarily kind of something we always were like, okay, when we're living together or whatever, like I'll start being your coach or anything. It just kind of happened. Yeah. I've kind of went through a couple different coaches. And I don't know, like it just, whether it wasn't jiving or like, I just didn't feel like, I don't know, just things didn't, it just, you know, when you have the right coach, you know what I mean? And it just didn't feel like that for the last couple. And my last prep or our prep that we did, he pretty much handled like the last half of it or so. Okay. So we kind of just from there assumed that he would just kind of pick the job back up once we started prep for a national show, and here we are.
Did he approach you? Did you approach him? What was kind of the genesis?
It really was just kind of like, it just happened. It was just natural. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like when are we starting? It wasn't really like a discussion or like so are you going to look for other coaches or anything like that? It was just kind of, we both just kind of made the quiet assumption that was how it was going to be.
Okay. Walk us through maybe the starting of your food prep and then maybe what it's going to look like 4 weeks out. Like, how is that going to metamorphose?
So, I mean, I definitely was not focused on bodybuilding like the first quarter of the year or so. So we pretty much just took out just like the fluff, the junk or whatever. Honestly, really for me, it was a matter of eating more. I wasn't really eating a whole lot, not eating a lot, I guess, but like really 3 meals, you know what I mean? Like I would just kind of was laid back and relaxed with it, having 3 meals a day. So we just switched out some of the foods for like the regular bodybuilding foods, like chicken breast, and rice and all that fun stuff, oats. And we did that for about 8 weeks. So then when prep truly started, there's really no like, it was no like kind of like, okay, prep's here and now we make these changes. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
just kind of, it all very smoothly kind of progressed into my actual like prep for the national show. So everything just kind of stayed the same. And obviously we're kind of tapering things as needed. But we're kind of taking like a very just kind of, we'll approach it, or like we'll kind of cross the bridge when we get there kind of approach, I guess.
Okay.
Like if we notice, like if he notices, I don't know, that, you know, I need a little extra cardio for a few extra days, you know, like he'll bump the cardio up a little bit. And I
Yep.
think it's kind of how we're going to take it for the rest of the prep. And, you know, there may be a week where I'm doing it, you know, 60 minutes, 5 times a week or something like that. Maybe the next week, you know, we dial it back or something. And so really just kind of taking the, you know, what he sees we need, which obviously can be a very helpful tool that he's physically in person with me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like you can actually see how I look, and check-ins aren't just via photo, which can sometimes obviously be a little grainy or pixely or whatever, or just, you know, not really show the true look at hand. So that's honestly a really cool benefit, obviously, is him actually being able to see how I'm progressing.
So now you guys obviously live together, your boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yes.
Is he very kind with his feedback? Is he harsh, or how do you want the feedback? You
I
know?
would honestly say it's pretty like platonic, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I think we do a good job at kind of separating that boyfriend girlfriend line with like coach and
Yep.
competitor line. So he's very just kind of black and white and just okay, yep, check-ins. We took photos. And he'll update me later in the day with kind of what the changes are. We have like a shared spreadsheet or whatever on Google, so he'll just adjust
Okay.
it and I'll look at it. Um, and I mean, I guess like outside of check-ins, you know, he'll definitely every now and again, if he notices while we're training back or something like that, like, oh, okay, like your back's starting to come in or something like that. But it's never overly, you know what I mean, complimentary, and it's never like,
Okay.
you know, bashing me or like putting me down or anything like that. But he definitely is a tough love kind of coach, which I know I vibe with a lot. You
Okay.
know, I've always kind of needed that, you know, not like kick down, but you know what I mean, like push of like, you know, just do it. You know what I mean? Just shut up and do it. And this is what you got to do. So yeah.
So, but on the converse, obviously you're not his coach, but I'm sure maybe you give a little critique or a little bit of criticism. Are you harsh with him, or are you just as kind to him?
So again, so it's very, I mean, I think a lot of the times, because I mean, obviously we always talk about it too, just about how, you know, as coaches, because he does coaching and I do some small time coaching myself. Um, you know, you're not always going to hear what you want to hear, but it's
Hmm.
always, you know, sometimes like what you should hear. So I think we kind of take that approach, and, you know, like sucks to suck, but like, you know, this is how it
Yeah.
is. And it's definitely not like, you know, we don't take it to heart or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna be all upset for the day because he told me that, we're a little behind or something like that, and we gotta bump cardio up or something, you know. So it's never, I would say it's never too extreme on one end or the other.
When it comes to your last show, was your last show Connecticut last year with Michael?
Yes, yep, we did that one together.
So now what's changing body wise from that show to this show? What are you working on? What are you trying to bring up? What are you trying to change?
Yeah, so really, I think the biggest thing for me right now, in the position that I am as a regional competitor moving up into the national ranks, is really just like conditioning my lower half.
Okay.
That's honestly been like a consistent struggle for me, and trying to find that balance of getting as lean as I need to in the lower half without sacrificing the muscle in the upper half.
Okay.
But really, from the last show to this show, with the acceptance of like that few months that I was kind of not focused on bodybuilding, I was just trying to almost train the upper body more, so that way when we do cut down and when we really need to like dig deep those last
Hmm.
few weeks to really bring my legs in, that it's not going to be too detrimental to the upper body. So
So is it something specific on the lower half, or is it overall quads, hamstrings, glutes, or is it a little bit of everything?
really, I mean, I would say for figure, I mean, honestly, all around. I would say all around for sure.
Okay.
Obviously, I can see some lines like in my glute hamstring, and then some slight separation like in the quads, but it's never been like that deep, like like deep cuts, dry cuts. Like it just,
Yep.
you can tell that like I still probably have like a couple pounds to go in my lower body.
You're not one of those people in the gym that's doing like 400-pound hip thrusts, are you?
So yes
High
and
hip
no. So I
thrust.
mean, we definitely I guess training changes a little bit. So we haven't really done a whole lot of hip thrusting. We have like the I don't know, what is it, booty builder hip thruster thing at our gym
Yep.
or whatever, but it's not like a super conducive one, I guess, for what we're trying to do with it. But couple plates on that, nothing too crazy, but maybe I
No,
should, I don't know, maybe I should start doing 4 plates on on hip
I
thrust.
I just laugh, and this isn't to poke fun at anybody listening, but when I go to the gym and I see the girls that are just starting out, they're not competitors, they're just trying to better themselves, and they have 3, 4, 5 plates on each side, and they probably weigh 100 pounds trying to
Yeah.
enhance their glutes. And I'm like, just slow and steady, methodically. You don't
Yeah.
need to, 1,000 pounds on there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unless obviously like you're progressing to that point, then sure, by all means. But absolutely, like when you're just kind of starting out, and like that's some of the issues with social media, right? Like they see all of these, strong, badass bikini Olympians that are doing this kind of stuff, and
Yep.
think that like, oh, okay, that's what I got to do too. But they don't see that, so and so Jen Dory,
Mhm.
started with 1 plate on a side, for hip thrust or whatever.
So getting back to meals and whatnot,
Yeah.
are you kind of a higher carb, low protein? Like what is the, not the macros, but is it high
Yeah.
carbs, low carbs? What do you kind of play around with going through prep?
So right now I would say carbs are still pretty moderate aside from rest days. So right now we have 2 meals, two of my middle meals have no carbs in them on rest days. But
Okay.
we tend to keep I would say like a high protein, moderate carb, low fat. Like my fats are
Okay.
pretty consistently low throughout the prep.
And then carb sources, are you a rice, you a potato girl? What do you generally go to?
I keep it super simple. I try not to switch it up and just kind of keep, all my regular like protein, like meat protein meals are paired with jasmine rice usually, and then I'll
Okay.
have oats, and then just some green veg. But aside from that, that's really it. Just oats and rice.
You mentioned a few times that earlier in the year you kind of took off. Was it just to be a mom, take care of your son, kind of let the body readjust a little bit, or was there more of a reasoning?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like every bodybuilder kind of goes through it. Maybe not. Maybe there's some that don't. So,
Yeah.
but just kind of that moment of like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Like, what is my why? Do I want to go on to do a national show? So really just kind of like breaking it down and trying to figure out like, okay, do I want to keep investing in this and keep doing this?
Hmm.
And then just kind of the checks and balances of, yeah, like being a mom and stuff. And granted, I have a really good support system with that. And I co-parent with his father, and Michael's around too, obviously. So, but just wanting to, I don't know, just kind of wanting to focus more on parenting and just kind of being there for him and not having to worry about like, oh, I got to bring my meal to the movie theater, you know what I mean? Or
Yep.
stuff like that. And just kind of wanted to take that break. And at one point, Michael and I thought maybe baby was a thing, but we
Okay.
kind of mulled it over, and just like with his prep coming up for his national show, obviously for Universe and everything, and
Yeah.
how short of a window we really had to kind of like put the effort in to do that. It just kind of trailed off. And then that was kind of my epiphany, if you will, of like, okay, if that's not happening, then I guess I better get my act together and start working towards this national show before my qualification runs up. So
There you go. And
yeah,
Michael was saying that your son is very understanding of like what you and Michael do, and obviously why you guys are not eating ice cream and pizza and all the fun
yeah.
foods, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, he's so funny. He's at the point now, he just turned 10 in August.
Okay.
Crazy. But kind of starting to like, he's just like, he's a comedian, like he'll kind of like poke some fun or whatever, like, these Reese's are so good, mom. Don't you wish you
Like, I
could
wish I
have
could have
them?
one.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So he's kind of like starting to get into that phase of it. But he's honestly also super sweet. And like sometimes he'll have moments of, I actually remember one time when he was like, he must have been 5 because it was my first prep. And he was just so distraught because he was trying to offer me, I think like Swedish fish or like some candy or something like that. And I
Okay.
was just like trying to like softly, like, not say like, no, I don't want it or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
oh, mommy can't really have that right now, just what I'm doing with the gym and stuff. And just like complete like broke down. He was so sad that I couldn't have any. And, but he's definitely progressed since then and is a little more understanding. So,
Does he eat your foods, or do you do the typical nuggets and fries, and you have to make him like his own meal?
he honestly is pretty balanced. I would say like his go-to if he were to like have like a bodybuilding meal would be like steak and rice. He loves steak.
Okay.
But he's pretty well versed, but definitely as a kid that will not turn down chicken nuggets and French fries, But I would honestly, genuinely say if he had to pick between like a carrot and I don't know, like a bag of chips, he would go with the carrot.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm talking like he like goes for like I don't know, this is his thing. I've tried doing like the baby carrots and stuff like that because they're obviously easy to pack for lunches and everything. But for some reason, he just wants
Yeah.
the full, unshaved, just regular, unpeeled like carrot.
That's awesome. Good
Yeah,
for him.
yeah, he's a cool dude.
There was some research that I read somewhere because I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old daughter, and I
Mhm,
was like research with all the trends in the obesity and everything else, and they say that as parents, if you give the sooner you give the kids sugar, like 2, 3, 4,
mhm.
that's what ruins it for the rest of their life. I don't know if I subscribe to that or not. Versus,
Yeah,
as a treat like later on in life, because some of the parents now are giving their kids juices at 2 years old.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like a lot of that comes with I try not to like I don't know. I'm my own parent.
Of
I stay in
course.
my own lane. I do my own things, and I'll never judge somebody for how they chose to raise their child or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. In my eyes, I would kind of almost see like, I don't know, I guess taking Michael, for example, like his parents really up to I think like high school were pretty strict on like the foods that they had.
Yeah.
Very kind of like granola-y type like foods, just very,
Okay.
very clean and just kind of basic and no sugars and artificial stuff like that. And now he's somebody who just like loves his snacks and he loves sweets. And so
Yeah.
it's like, does that play a role in it too? Like does maybe withholding it for so long kind of create this like aura around like snacks and junk food and stuff like that that kind of makes somebody jump at the second that they can have something like that. So I don't know. I guess again, checks and balances and
Yeah. No, it's true though, because it's like, are they gonna now imbibe on what they missed, or is it like they never
Mhm.
had it, so they don't know what they miss?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I honestly like with Michael's situation, I think that's part of it of just like, for so but then like, I don't know, kids always when they go over their friends or whatever, whatever their friends have for snacks, they'll have that too. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know how I feel on that topic. I mean, I definitely, Quinn's been an apple juice drinker since he was probably like 3 years old. And,
Yeah.
the dentist will sit there and say that it's like the worst juice or whatever, I guess, because of the sugars that are in it or something for the teeth. And I'm just like, I
Life
don't
could be
know, as
worse.
long as yeah, exactly. He could be consuming much, much worse. So we'll stick with the apple juice.
Shay, take us back to teenage Shay. What were you an average kid, athlete? What was that like growing up?
So I at least like teenage years. So I started my fascination with sports. Um, Probably when I was like around like 10, like going into middle school, kind of like getting into
Okay.
middle school. Um, when my dad and my mom got together, so I have a stepmom, but she's
Okay.
been like my mom since I was, since I can like remember, like 8, 9 years old. Um, she has a son, my brother, and he was doing track. So he was a little bit older than I was, like 4 or 5 years older than I was.
Okay.
So we'd go to his track meets and stuff like that, and I would watch him, and I would just be like, "That's what I want to do. Like, I want to do track." Like, was so fascinated by all the different like events that you could do, and you didn't have to just do one thing. I'm definitely not coordinated, so ball sports were not a thing for me.
Okay.
Not catch or really throw to save my life, but I made do. I did the one thing that like you didn't have to throw or catch anything. So, but high jump was really kind of my thing.
Wow.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm only 5'6", and I was definitely a
Okay.
stockier girl in high school. At least compared to like the girls that you see doing high jump. Usually they're like long, tall, and
Yeah.
slender. And it's funny actually. My dad always like would tell me that like these girls are like looking you up and down. Like, who is this chick? Like she's, just again, not that I was like a overweight girl or whatever, but I was just a, thicker girl. And then, there I go clearing like, 4'8", 5 feet. And it was pretty cool. I miss it a lot, but it's definitely I don't know. It was my first love for sport, I would say, for sure.
Was that the only event for track and field or anything else?
Oh, so I mean, obviously, you kind of do some other things too sprinkled in there. So I was more of a sprinter up to like a 400. 400 was not my favorite,
Okay.
because that definitely, I don't care what you say, that race is a sprint. It is not a
Yeah, oh, yeah.
jog. It is not a paced race. It is just you go, and doing that for a whole lap was not my love. But I dabbled in like hurdles and some of the other field events like long jump and discus and stuff like that. But I always focused on, especially like as I was getting into like high school, like sophomore, junior year and stuff like that. In college,
Yep.
obviously, was the topic of conversation. I really focused on high jump.
Born and raised in Maine, or where was home originally?
Yes, yeah. So Maine, born and raised, right
Okay.
in Portland, and have just kind of hopped around throughout life, I guess. So I've kind of lived a little bit all over in Maine, really kind of stretching up to where we are now, which is central Maine. But I've kind of lived all around in Maine.
And what was the genesis to get you in the gym and start lifting weight?
Well, again, so like I was always into sports, obviously, and athletic and whatnot through school. And I am 28 years old and I have a 10-year-old son. So I quickly became a mom after I graduated. And then it was pretty much just like a constant like yo-yo of like 4 years
Okay.
of, I had gotten to a weight that I'd never gotten to before, and, needed to get that weight off and, get the baby fat off and stuff like that. And so I would just kind of yo-yo back and forth between like, okay, like I'm not going to eat pizza anymore, and I'm going to go to the track and I'm going to run. Because it's really like all I knew. I didn't really spend time in the gym or whatever in my high school years and stuff like that. Definitely not like how gym culture is now.
Yep.
And yeah, I would literally just kind of go to a track and run around, do some sprints, do some calisthenics. And again, it was just kind of on and off for 4 years until pretty much like the catalyst, I guess, was a separation with my son's father, and just kind of
Right.
saying like, you know what, like this is it. Like this is the last time I'm going to tell myself that like, okay, getting back on it, doing it again. And that was probably summer of 2017, because it was, or 2016. So it was going into my first prep for a 2018 show.
Okay.
But yeah, so I essentially just kind of, I would take Quinn to the track and stuff, and he would play on like the high jump mats or the pole vault mats, and I would just kind of run. And then I finally got into a gym, just Planet Fitness, just kind of like basic stuff, and would be
Okay.
terrified of like the weight section, and would just try to like stick to the machines like off to the side, and cardio and everything like that. And I eventually moved down from Auburn, because I initially lived in Auburn after Quinn's dad and I separated, and then I moved down to Biddeford,
Okay.
where there's a gym where a lot of like local natural competitors trained
Hmm.
out of, and just kind of caught wind of what competing was and everything. And yeah, I don't know, just kind of interested me, and just kind of piqued the ears a little bit of like, like what's this all about? And I had a couple of people say that like, yeah, like you should do it, it's a lot of fun, and just kind of happened into bodybuilding, I guess.
So how long was it till when you were let's just say fully invested into the weights versus kind of ancillary for school, where
Yeah.
you're fully invested to doing your first show? 6 months, a
So when
year,
I
like
Yeah, so I would say I moved down to Biddeford at some point, I would say like the beginning of 2017.
okay,
Started training at the gym and everything, and then truly started a prep for a competition like November of 2017. So probably about like 4, 5, 6 months of like truly
wow,
like training like bodybuilding style, I would guess, and like kind of getting my wheels under me of like knowing kind of like what movements to do for certain body parts. And I had linked up with a small time coach at the time who had coached a couple local competitors, and had just kind of like asked him about it, hey, like kind of what direction should I kind of be going in if I'm thinking about doing this. And he said that he would take me on, and we just kind of started to prep from there. And I think we started in like October, November of 2017 for an April show.
Figure, or what'd you start out at?
So it definitely, I did end up doing figure, but it was kind of
Okay.
obviously not knowing anything about any of the
Sure.
divisions or kind of what they looked like. So I kind of was doing my research and stuff. And it was really kind of a conversation of like, what did my physique look like it could do best in at the time?
Mhm.
And then eventually, like kind of after looking more into the divisions and everything like that, I really just kind of started steering towards figure, just
Okay.
because I really liked the look and I liked how musculature, or like the musculature of the women were, but like how feminine they still were.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I ran with that probably about like halfway through the prep when we decided that's what I wanted to do and focused on that.
And how'd you place?
First.
You said like
uh,
so humbly. I was waiting for you to say like seventh or something. First.
No, so I honestly, not that I don't like talking about it, but I feel like I didn't get that like true shot at like really like kind of
It
trudging
was your
through the
first
ranks.
show.
You know what I mean?
What were you expecting? It was your first show.
Well, I don't know. I was just expecting that like I would just go, and I honestly I had no expectations at all. You know what I mean? Like it
Okay.
wasn't in my head to be like, oh yeah, I'm going and I'm getting first place. This was like a completely new world to me. It was a local, actually, I think it was the very first, it was the inception of the show that I did. So it was the OCB Shamrock Cup
Yeah.
Classic.
Okay.
Aaron Dita Nato, I believe is his last name. I'm sorry, Aaron, if I botched that, but so it was his first year doing that show. And I don't know, I just was just like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go do this and see what it's all about. And I ended up winning. So it wasn't a qualifier because the OCB, they don't have like the nationals, obviously, and stuff
Yep.
like that. So it's just, if it's pro qualifier, you get your pro card. So from there, I went on and I did a WMBF show, probably about, it was like a couple weeks later or something like that. And
Okay.
I won all my classes there and I got my WMBF pro card.
Like so nonchalant. Like, yeah, I won this one. I won this one. Yeah.
But Elaine, like you say it like that, but it's like, it truly is like, when I think about it, I'm just like, no, like I shouldn't have gotten a pro card in these. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't, like I hadn't even, like shown my hard work or like my worth, or I don't know. I don't know what it was to me, but like I mean, obviously at the time it was very like, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm a professional natural bodybuilder.
But Chey, let's be honest here. Obviously, those leagues are not NPC IFBB, but
Yeah.
again, they're impressive leagues. I mean, most
Yeah,
people
yeah.
that train there, it might take 6, 7, 8 shows even in those leagues to get your first win.
Well, that's what you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And like, so I'm not trying to like, I don't know, sound like
No, but I mean, it's
humble
like
brag or
anything.
whatever, you know what I mean? But like, it just very much was like, it was just a whirlwind. It was crazy. So then I went on to do the OCB Pine Tree State in April. And that is where I won my OCB pro card. So I had gotten a WMBF pro card and an OCB pro card in one season.
Wait, but I'm
My
losing
third
count here. What do you
season.
have? 8, 9 at this point now? What do we have?
What was that?
I'm losing count. How many pro
I
cards? 8,
know,
9,
yes. I
10?
don't know. I don't know. Too many, but yeah, so that was my first season of competing. So it was just kind of a crazy whirlwind of emotions and
Okay.
just what did I just do? You know what I mean? Like what just
Yeah.
happened? Sort of feel, but yeah, it was crazy.
Was so let's look at your first show for a minute, even though it was 7 or so years ago. Was
Yeah.
prep as expected? Do you think it was easy? Was it hard? Did you suffer? I mean, what were your thoughts back then?
It was really like, I don't know, like it's funny you say that because like I've been actually weirdly thinking about it the last couple of weeks of just like how just naive I was, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like
Yeah.
up in like la la land, like, oh, okay, like he tells me to change this, so I guess I'll just eat this instead. Like it just wasn't, I don't know. I don't think I struggled like, I definitely can say like I've had hard preps now.
Yeah.
But I definitely like for me at the time, like I definitely came in lean, you know what I mean? Like I came in conditioned
Yeah.
for a natural competitor. But it was also if it fits your macro style, which I
Okay.
don't necessarily think is the best fit for a bodybuilding competition prep, especially a first one. Because I was making all sorts of just not good food choices for my meals. I mean, I shouldn't say like not good. Like obviously, like you can't really. I guess you could fit a pizza if you wanted to, but like I don't know, just like making really weird stuff and like
Yeah.
inconsistent and like I I don't know. It was just very, very, I feel like convoluted. to
Yep.
kind of do as a first time competitor. You know what I mean? Like I barely knew what a macro was, and here I am like trying to come up with my own meals and figure it all out by myself. And so it was very strange, but
So it's okay. So in hindsight, going back now, maybe what was the craziest meal that you thought was good, but now in hindsight, you're like, what the heck did I do?
oh my God, Sean, it's so gross.
Good.
Do
Come on.
you
I believe
know
me. I've a chicken in the blender, tuna in the blender with protein powder. I've heard
this
it
is
all.
so much worse. This is so much worse.
Come on.
So, do you know the shirataki noodles?
Uh,
They're
describe them
like
a
this.
little bit.
So it's like a, I assume some sort of Asian brand, but it's just like in this like liquid bag, and there are these noodles that look like kind of like ramen noodles.
Okay.
You drain them; they smell atrocious. Like when you open them, and
Okay.
like it even says so on the bag. Like it's okay; it's supposed to smell like this. So it's like a mush. I think it's like a mushroom noodle or whatever. But like the
Okay.
consistency, honestly, is very noodle like. Like it feels like a ramen or like a spaghetti or something. So I would take that, drain it, rinse it, and everything like that. I would actually get, and again, this is terrible because it's a crap ton of sodium, but like the ramen noodle like seasoning packets. I would buy the
Oh yeah.
ramen noodles just to get the seasoning packets.
Okay.
And I would mix that in. And then I always had just like some sort of like veggie assortment, like frozen veggie assortment or whatever. So I'd cook that, I'd throw it in there. And then my protein source was tilapia at the time.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I would bake a fillet of tilapia and I would put it on top, and an egg, I think, and some peanut butter, whatever like my macros called for the fat at the time or whatever. So just like trying to make this like Asian ramen, like delicious like noodle bowl. And I had that probably for like the last couple of months of my prep and thought it was absolutely fantastic. But it was, if I tried
But
it now, I probably would throw up. But
but obviously it worked, and obviously with all the sodium, it probably did well with your body, kind of keeping you tight.
yeah, probably honestly in hindsight for sure.
Okay, so we fast forward. When do you decide to step into the NPC side of things?
So it was actually so the very next year. So I competed in the spring of 2018. So I wanted to prep again for spring of 2019
Okay.
for my first pro show for both the WMBF and the OCB. And then it was pretty much a plan after that to try an NPC show. So the Jay Cutler Classic that happens in Boston or in
Oh yeah.
Massachusetts every spring was a couple weeks after the OCB Pro Show. So it's the same show actually that I won my pro card at. They had a pro division,
Okay.
so I was able to compete as a pro there, and I got third. Um, and then I went on to do the Cutler a couple weeks later, and I think I also placed third.
So you were humble now. You're not winning first
Yes,
anymore.
yes. Got that little pushback that I needed. So
So was the goal? So now you get into the NPC. Is the goal to become a pro? Back then,
no, I mean, I don't even think it was really just to kind of like look like I belonged, like in the NPC,
okay.
standing next to these figure girls. I can't, I know I could look her up if I needed to, but the girl that ended up winning the Jay Cutler, I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to look like her. Like she's like who
Yeah.
I like. Just doing the comparison, I was like, that's what I want to work towards, and I want to look like that. So it was really more for me, like at the beginning, just kind of like wanting to nail it, I guess, and wanting to like actually look the part on stage. Because I definitely like in some of my earlier appearances, like doing tans that were not the show tan, and I looked like tree bark, like it was just like so dark, like my like I'm not even kidding, like head to toe. It was a bad look. I'll share pictures with you later, but like brown hair, kind of the same color as the brown on my tan, a dark red. So I was just like very
Oh wow.
monochromatic, and like it wasn't a great look, but so yeah, just kind of one. And then even for the Cutler, like I still was doing not the show tan, so I just my color was so dark, and they tried to touch me up, and it just made me darker, and it was just not a good look. So just kind of wanting to like okay, if I'm going to do this, like I want to be serious about it, and like I want to look the part. So
So 17, 18. Are they doing spray tans yet, or are you still painting them on?
so I think the shows definitely had like spray tanning, like they
Okay.
had companies or whatever there, but just again, just being young and a single mom, I was trying to cut corners on everything. Like
Of course.
I made my first suit. I at least got like the stencil of it. I ordered like
Yeah.
a put together bikini, but I put all the rhinestones on it and stuff. And just trying to like save dollars anywhere I could. So my coach at the time had a connection, and they had their own tents and their own machines and stuff like that, and they were able to get some color from somebody, and that's what we did. We just went to my coach's house and we tanned up there.
Wow. So I sent Mike a picture when I competed many, many years ago. So I'm going to age myself back. We didn't have spray on. It was basically a brush and
Yeah.
3, 4 coats with a hair dryer.
That's so funny. Just
Yeah,
sitting
talk
there
about,
with the rollers. Hey, they still use the roller sometimes. They work really well to like smooth some of those lines out.
well, we didn't have a roller. So I'm going to date myself.
No.
I would get in the bathroom and my sister would come along with, it was almost like a foam brush. It wasn't a brush, it was like foam.
Oh, okay.
And you
Okay.
dip it and just up and down, hair dry it, another coat, hair dry it. So
So
anyway, yeah, you guys have it easy this year.
we
This time around.
yeah, we definitely do. You get much more of a evenness, I'm sure. And yeah, yeah. Don't have to like do it yourself and just get to stand there and someone does it for you.
So at that point, you're saying, no, you're not thinking about being a pro. So at what point or what show did you say, you know what? I've got some skin in the game here. I think I can do this. And, I want my pro card.
Honestly, it was, I mean, obviously, like you kind of like once you're really in it, like
Yeah.
after that first Cutler show, my next show actually was another Cutler show, but it was in Virginia,
Okay.
years later in 2021. And that one was kind of my, like, okay, like I'm starting to get some cap shoulders and my shape's kind of starting to come in a little bit more. And so obviously I don't know, it's always fun to talk about like, oh my gosh, how crazy would it be if one day, you know what I mean? Years down the road, one day, for pros or whatever. But no, so it truly was probably this last show, the Connecticut, that I was like, I think maybe that this could be something that like I could pursue and I could actually do if I really put my mind to it.
So we mentioned earlier, you and Mike did that show together. Were you guys living together at that time?
Yes.
I was going to say, so is it even asking how you guys coexisted, doing prep together?
So it definitely was
Interesting. We'll leave it at that, maybe.
interesting, to say the least. We definitely, at the beginning, I mean, obviously, like when you're easing into it, like it's not, nobody's miserable yet. Nobody's had 0 carb days yet. No one's had hours of cardio yet. So the beginning certainly was fine. It was probably honestly like the last like 6 weeks that was just not fun to be around one another. And yeah, we definitely always say like in hindsight, we'll never try to do a show together again, but
Yep.
I wouldn't go back and change it, obviously, especially given the outcome that we had. And but I definitely would tell couples that are thinking about doing it together, really make sure that you've got a really strong kind of base in your relationship, and try not to take things to heart, or just kind of have that conversation beforehand, you know what I mean, of like, okay, so let's lay down kind of the law, so to
Yep.
speak, you know what I mean, lay down the rules, the game rules here, and what we're going to do when XYZ comes up. But I mean, you say that stuff, but then those moments happen, and just all that goes out the window. So I don't know, do
Yeah.
it or
So
don't.
count to 10 and make sure you each have your own room. If you got to like step away and just remember.
And that was the thing. That was the thing. Like, obviously, being in that like really small apartment, we would literally, like, the apartment was like a hallway. Like, we had our living room, and then it would kind of go into another room, which is the kitchen, and then just like a straight hallway
Okay.
with our bedroom. So there was really like no space. So anytime one of us needed some space, we'd usually kind of take a walk, or leave the house or something, or go for a ride. Or
So maybe that's what he was really alluding to when we spoke. And he said, I feel less stress in a bigger house, because maybe it's just that, but just the fact of the dynamic when necessary between you both to kind of have a little bit of bigger space.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely have more rooms to confine ourselves to, more space in between rooms to confine ourselves to. So
So how did you and Mike meet?
through the gym.
Okay.
Typical story, I guess. But we actually met before even like a relationship or attraction or really anything was a thing. Because I started going to World Gym in Portland in
Okay.
2018, going into my pro prep for the OCB and the WMBF. I was going to school at the time for nursing, so I was down at USM in Portland,
Okay.
doing classes, and just kind of was literally like from like 4:30 in the morning until like 10 o'clock at night, was just like go, go, go. So I had
Okay.
like in-person classes, I had online classes. So in between my in-person ones, I'd shoot over to World Gym and get my workout in really quick and then go back to class or something. And so that's kind of where we met there. He was a personal trainer at World Gym. And he and his training partner, Keith, at the time, um, pretty much like, I don't know, like he was kind of like he started being like my go-to for like bodybuilding questions and stuff like that. And,
Okay.
just kind of like training and stuff. That's really when like my training switched, because I ended up doing a session with him and Keith. It was legs. And that felt like the first day of training for me. Like,
Sure.
okay, now I have like finally really trained like a bodybuilder for the first time.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so from there, like we would all kind of train together every so often. And he ended up moving up to Bangor in 2019, the end of 2019. So we kind of like lost touch or lost connection or whatnot. And pretty much it was 2021. He messaged me and said that he was moving back down to kind of like the central Maine
Okay.
area and wanted to grab coffees and a lift. And it just kind of blossomed from there.
So do you guys train together?
We do, yes, yes. So Michael
Okay.
is my training partner and I am his training partner.
Yes, and that video you sent, it'll be at the beginning of this video with you doing the squats, which is just tremendous. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't see males doing that kind of weight. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, honestly, I fully like put all of that on just like being Michael's training partner. Because obviously like you see what he lifts, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like he's throwing on, what I had on plus like a bar on the top with like three more plates on each side. And so like it eventually, like for me, it was just like, you know what, like screw that. I don't want to take off so many plates in between sets. You know what I mean? And just like I need to just get stronger so there can be a smaller discrepancy in between our sets. So that was kind of honestly that attributed a lot to me getting stronger and training heavier.
Talk to us about training. I mean, what is the rep range like? Like what is training style like?
Yep. So we, in terms of like split and whatnot, right now currently it is, we have back and buys, and then we'll also the next day we'll do quads usually, and then shoulders. That'll be one part of the split, a rest day, and then we'll
Okay.
do, no, I'm sorry. So back and then push, so chest, shoulders, and then quads. And then we'll have hamstrings and I had technically have like a second shoulder day, but he does arms. So
Okay.
we'll do like a touch up shoulder day. And kind of, I mean, just kind of general like progressive overload style training,
Okay.
but really like, kind of like high intensity, high volume, kind of mixed in there too. So rep ranges are anywhere from like I would say 8 to 12. And then, I don't know, like pump sets or something like that would go up to like 15. But really, that 8 to 12 rep range is kind of like the sweet spot for us.
And then for the bigger body parts, like 4 to 5 exercises, or what do you kind of fool around with
Yeah.
exercises?
So typically, like we end up shooting for like 6 to 8 top sets or working sets.
Okay.
So usually around like four like actual full on exercises with like a couple of like warm up exercises beforehand. So we're
Okay.
probably doing like a total of 6 movements, but like truly like 6 to 8 working sets.
And when you're fully in the thick of things with prep, what's the
Mhm.
cardio like?
So again, right now we're kind of like everything's kind of like touch and go and kind of figuring out what we need as we go along. But um, I definitely know like I'm somebody that needs like high cardio. So right now
Okay.
we're at 40 minutes for 5 sessions, which has been like slowly tapered up from 3 sessions at 30 minutes, I believe is where we started.
Okay.
So I am sure by the end of the prep, I'm going to have fasted cardio, post workout cardio. So right now I'm doing it all post workout, but I'm sure by the end of it, I'll be over an hour a day between fasted and post workout.
So now if things are off a little bit, do you guys modify your food? Do you take up the cardio? Like, how do you balance that?
Honestly, like it's kind of in Michael's hands with what he's deciding to do this time around. Like this is like the first true prep where he's like fully taking it on. Like obviously he's
Okay.
been kind of like a second pair of eyes and stuff like that in my previous preps. But this is like the one where he's like fully taking it on. So I'm kind of just like, don't ask questions, just whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it sort of deal. But I would say he's always going to want to adjust cardio before food, wanting to
Okay.
kind of keep food as high as we can for as long as we can before we know that we kind of have to take that dive. But if I had to guess, he'd probably change cardio before food.
What's the equipment of choice for cardio?
Right now I've been doing like 10 minutes on the stairs just to kind of get heart rate going at the
Okay.
beginning of my session. And then spending the last 30 minutes on the elliptical. But honestly, like all in all, I would say the elliptical is my go-to just for, I don't know, just like knees and everything like that. Feel a lot better on the elliptical. I can tend to go pretty high on the resistance without like, slowing down. So it gets me to sweat a lot and heart rate
Sure.
gets up there. And yeah, so I tend to like that.
How do you pass the time? Are you just a music? You watch Netflix? I mean, book, or how do you pass the time?
Yeah, so I kind of a mix of things, I guess. Recently I've been like very into like my audiobooks.
Okay.
So I'll throw on an audiobook or whatnot to pass the time, but sometimes I'll shake it up and I'll just throw on some whatever music, kind of high tempo music, just to kind of keep my pace with my cardio and whatnot. And but yeah, between music and audiobooks, I would say honestly, I've gotten to the point where in my workouts, music is there sometimes, but it's not like a focus. Like before, it used to be like I needed my music, and like if I
Yep.
didn't have my headphones, I was turning around, going back home, getting my headphones. Like I could not train without my music, and like now it's almost gotten to a point where sometimes it can be distracting.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll even like have my headphones in and like no music's playing, and it's just there to kind of buffer the other noise that's like happening in the gym. So I'll
I've
just be
heard that
playing.
people do that. That's not uncommon. I've
Yeah,
heard people do that. Just becomes
yeah.
like white noise. Just get it
It
out.
is, yeah. So, I mean, because obviously, like, especially because we train at peak hours, we're there between, 4:30 and 6, 4:30 and 7 or whatever. So it can get pretty loud and get pretty busy, and the music obviously is always going. So sometimes, like for me, I get overstimulated very easily. Like if I were to go
Okay.
into a big gym with like high foot traffic or something like that, like the Raw Revive gym or something, I feel like I would
Yeah.
get overstimulated pretty quickly. But just throw my headphones in and either no music or just kind of some low music just kind of helps me just kind of zen and get into it.
Shay, you walk into the Nationals, knock on wood, fingers crossed, everything else, you get your pro card. What's the big picture next year, 3 years, 5 years?
So I would say, I mean, I definitely obviously like I want to compete as a pro. I know that. So if pro card happens, I definitely do want to get into the realm of competing in the pro shows. Honestly, I haven't truly thought about it a whole lot. I
Okay.
probably would say that I know for a fact, just with how these pro figure girls are looking these days, that I probably would need at least a full year of
Okay.
some just muscle building, just kind of getting bigger all around in general, and just kind of focusing on training and eating for about a year or so before I actually consider doing a prep for a pro show. But um, I don't know. I mean, Michael and I talk about it a lot. Obviously, now that
Yeah.
he's a pro, we're kind of planning out his pro shows that he's going to be doing next year, and um, it obviously would be very cool to kind of go and do like an overseas show. I've always kind of
Oh,
liked the
interesting.
idea
Okay.
of going to just we love traveling. We love the idea of traveling. We're trying to get more into it and stuff. And obviously, this is a really great avenue to do that. Kind of get around to different states and different parts of the world. So I would say like a bucket list thing for me would be to compete in like the Alicante, like Spain show or
Okay.
something, or just like
Yeah.
somewhere just like fun and out there and crazy.
Do you want to be on the Olympia stage, or does it really matter to you?
I mean, I definitely can't say it wouldn't be badass and really cool to
Yeah.
get to the Olympia stage. I'm not putting eggs in the basket for that though, at least not yet. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like I think I would at least want to I don't know, because like for me, I don't know, a lot of people obviously take the approach of like, no, like you envision it, you think it, and like that's you go for it. You're gonna get to the Olympia stage.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know. It's just kind of like, all right, let's just kind of take it step by step, kind of see where we're at and how things are looking. And because I don't know where life is going to take me in like 5, 10 years,
Yep.
So I would hate to kind of have the dream of like, yeah, I'm going to get to the Olympia stage and then something happens and I can't do that. You know what I mean? And now I've kind of been devastated or feel like that's been taken away from me or something.
What ab-
Um,
what about on the converse? If you thought of exit strategy, you do this for 5 more years, 10 more years, or just kind of live life and see where it goes?
Not yet, honestly. Probably not for a couple more years, I think, when I kind of start thinking in that direction. But I just turned 29. So kind of still feel like I'm in my youth with bodybuilding.
Sure.
Yeah, I've only been competing 5 years, and honestly, when I truly like kind of sit down and think about it, I've only done, 3 NPC shows. So I feel
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
want to get a little bit more out there. I want to kind of get on more stages and kind of get more shows under my belt and stuff. And then at least for me, like if I can kind of head in that direction. I maybe a couple years down the road we'll think about what the next steps are, but just having fun and want to get on more stages. So
Sure. What's the hardest out of this whole thing? Is it diet? Is it the exercise or stepping on stage?
for me, I'm a pretty big foodie.
Okay.
Not that I have a trouble like sticking with a diet. Honestly, like this prep, there hasn't been any like true like hard cravings, you know what I mean? Like obviously having a 10-year-old kid or 9, 8, 7-year-old kid, you
Yep.
have like the snacky snacks and stuff and the gummies and the Cheez-Its and everything. And I'd be lying if I said there weren't preps where I've kind of taken a Cheez-It out or something like that, or like a crumb or something. But this prep has definitely been different in the mindset where I'm just kind of like, all everything out on the table, and I definitely love my food, but I know that at the end of the day, like it's going to be there, in 6 more months.
Yeah.
So, but I would say out of those options, the food is definitely the saddest part of prepping. But especially when I've gone a prep with Michael suffering with me, and now I'm going through a prep myself, and he's no longer suffering and gets to eat anything that he wants to. So.
Yeah, I feel no animosity or anything through that. I feel nothing
No,
whatsoever.
no, I love him so much, and I'm so happy that he gets to eat whatever he wants to eat.
Shay, after you've done all your shows, is there a go-to like first meal, like just nasty, or is it just whatever? I mean, is there a specific go-to after each show?
Honestly, I really love a good charcuterie board, like
That's
meats,
not even like
cheeses,
dirty though. That's not bad.
it's really not that bad, I know. That or I know the last show, I just wanted, like, fruit. I just wanted, like, a big
Wow.
bowl of just, like, mixed fruits and just, like I don't know, especially, like I don't know, you feel, like, so dehydrated and, like, you haven't
Yeah.
had, like, a lick of water, and I don't know, fruit just always sounds so good to me after a show, but a charcuterie board, I definitely F with a lot.
That's a soundbite right there because everyone's always pancakes and the pizza and the ice cream and the
Yeah.
chicken wings. And I never heard that. Wow.
You never had a charcuterie board?
No, I know what they are, but not as a
No, I
food.
know, but, like, no one's ever said, like, they
No. No.
ask
Just
Ian
can't even.
Valier, he knows. Ian has a
Okay, I don't follow him
charcuterie
enough.
board.
I mean, it's cheese and fruit and crackers and all that other stuff. It's not really cheese might be nasty, but I
Oh,
mean, come on.
the cheese definitely, I feel it the next day, but
It's good going down, as they say.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Chey, it's truly been an honor and a pleasure. Is there anything maybe that we
Yeah.
haven't touched that you want to share with the listeners as we wind down?
Not really. No, I think you kind of covered at least like my history, so to speak, and like the basics here. And it's been a lot of fun chatting with you. And I hope kind of we can get more of these under our belt and kind of
Yes.
open up the conversation a little bit more and kind of deep dive into some fun bodybuilding stuff.
Yes. Chey, where can people follow you? Instagram, social media, all that good stuff.
So really just on the gram.
Okay.
And my handle is Chey.Coombs. That is CHEY.COOMBS. And yeah, shoot me a message, say hello, add me, do the whole thing.
Yes, and you're that person that kind of shares everything. You're not just strictly bodybuilding and gym. You could let people look into your life. Obviously, you guys went away somewhat warm a week or two ago, which I was
Yes.
jealous of.
Yes, yeah. Michael's parents actually up in Down East Maine, which is kind of like a little tucked away, small population in the woods kind of place. And we love getting away up there. And it's just kind of like a nice separation from just regular life and just like the day to day and whatnot. But yeah, we I show my life. It's not just bodybuilding for me. Bodybuilding isn't like the end all be all. And no harm, no foul to the folks that do. And if that's how you want to display your social media, by all means. But I got some fish up there, got my boys up there, and everything in between. So
Yep. So, Jagan, thank you so much. I mean, I definitely want you back. I know we'll be chatting again like daily, like two little
yeah,
schoolgirls,
yeah,
just like you, myself, and
yeah,
Michael. And, we kidded around that maybe we bring you guys on together.
yeah. That'd
Um,
be fun.
but I kind of put this off the air and I'll put this on air. Okay. If there's anybody listening that has a husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, whatever it is, couple that is in the bodybuilding space, powerlifting, crossfitting, reach out to me. I've got a very cool idea for a couple show that I want to go ahead and launch and see if it might be of interest. I might have Chey and Michael on board.
For
But
sure.
as always, folks, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. Make sure you follow this next upcoming star here in Chey Coombs and
Thank
have
you.
yourself a great day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too, Sean. So great.